These are my low-owned plays and sleepers for Week 9 on DraftKings and FanDuel, but also how to use late swap effectively to vault up the leaderboard. What's up, guys? Welcome to another fantasy video. Do me a favor and smash that like button before you forget. And if this is your first time here and you want to become a profitable DFS player and get better at betting, start now by subscribing to the channel, but make sure you hit that notification bell so you don't miss anything along the way. So one of the things that I think people don't do enough of is late swaps, especially in tournaments, no matter if it's large field tournaments or if it's smaller field tournaments like I tend to play. So I think that we should walk through today what I would be doing if after the morning games I was ahead or if I was behind, in particular behind. So if I'm ahead, I'm more apt to play some of these chalky guys. I will say that I tend to be really aggressive with swaps just because I want to give myself a chance. Even if I'm around that cash line, I'm trying to win. I'm always trying to win these GPPs, not min cash. I think that if you're just trying to min cash, you're in the wrong game because all the money is up top in these tournaments. So one of the things that we'll do first is just look at some projected ownership stuff. So Tyler Lockett at 21%. Seems like he is going to be kind of the chalk, but he is in the 4 p.m. game. So if you end up with some Tyler Lockett, let's run through some scenarios. If you do have a Russell Wilson stack with Tyler Lockett and you're really struggling, who's a guy that you can pivot to at that price range at wide receiver that's going to offer you some sort of leverage? So he's pretty expensive, right? So I don't know if there's going to be one that really pops, but I'll move over to my other sheet here that has just the late guys. And we'll sort by weighted opportunity rating. Again, if you're watching this on YouTube, I do make this sheet available to all my Twitch subscribers. It's what kind of walks you through what I think is super important at each position. It's a little bit gross at the wide receiver position as far as like these lower owned guys, right? So what's going to be the chalk? Mike Evans, Chris Godwin, Tyler Lockett. They're probably all going to cannibalize each other. I don't know if they're all going to be like super high owned or anything, but if we're looking for kind of a pivot, these are the things that we really want to kind of value. We want ceiling, of course, but we also want lower ownership. So at the kind of higher end of the spectrum, one of the guys that I think fits this bill could be Odell Beckham. He's only 7%. I could see that ownership dropping even a little bit more. But someone that is kind of one of our top weighted opportunity guys. He's probably a little bit overpriced to make any of your main teams. I think Chubb's going to be popular, so you kind of flip the game script on them for that. But the higher price guys, this is a tough late swap situation at the wide receiver position for sure. So if you really wanted to get different, you would kind of have to go maybe to another position at some point if this is like a flex that you're looking at, or just go down in salary. So some of the guys that I think probably are going to offer you the most leverage in this one, Marvin Jones is the guy that I'm kind of looking at as someone that could offer a nice pivot for you. So I think Golladay is going to be popular again, but Marvin Jones is kind of shaping up to be one of those guys that isn't going to draw as much ownership. So let's see if I can even find him on my sheet here. So he's one of the guys that I'd be looking at from a pivot perspective. So if he ends up around 5% and you have one of these guys that's projected to be significantly higher owned, I think he's one of the guys that would offer the highest ceiling and lowest ownership. So Cortland Sutton's another one. I don't know if he's going to be super popular, but at 5,800, he's someone kind of right at the top here that that's a pretty crazy number for his weighted opportunity rating. His yards per route run is extremely strong as well. So I think those are the kind of the guys I'd be looking at: Cortland Sutton, Odell Beckham, and I think that if you wanted to kind of just go the route of attacking Marvin Jones, depending on where you think Kenny Golladay is going to be at, I think that that's where I'm at. Marvin Jones' price is egregious on FanDuel. Yeah, 5,700. That's nuts. Steve Boyton in the chat. Keenan Allen, great pivot. Let's talk about Keenan Allen. Yeah, so Keenan Allen, similar price point. Okay. So Keenan Allen versus like Odell Beckham at 6,400. Tough matchup. A lot of people are going to be staying away from this Green Bay matchup, I think. This is a tough stat for me, 41.3 total yards per game over the last 4. But he is going to get some volume. I mean, similar to Odell, like there's a reason these guys are priced down. Yeah, I could see Odell or Keenan Allen being decent pivot options. So Odell, yeah, I think you could probably, everything I'm kind of looking, I think Keenan Allen might even have a little bit more upside than Odell too, so that's sharp. Lara Train, thanks for your 50 bits. Appreciate that. Lowest price for Keenan all season. Yeah, I don't mind it. Sutton's going to be low because of that team total. I could see that. Yeah, so I think those are kind of the main wide receiver pivots that I'd be looking at. So some of the the chalky running backs. Chris Carson's got to be the pivot, right? Is that what people are saying in the chat? You can also pivot to Carson, get on the other side of the Seattle chalk. Yep, I'm with you, dude. So a lot of people are going to stay away from Chris Carson because of this matchup against, because this matchup against Tampa Bay. Top team in DVOA against the run. A ton of people that are just not going to click that. Also, the second best team against running backs in the passing game. Doesn't mean that they can't be beat by a guy that's seeing a ton of usage, right? So what did Christian McCaffrey do to them last week? Still did just fine, right? I don't know if I buy this 19% ownership for Chris Carson. Let me check another source for that. I honestly think he'll be closer to 10. Maybe that's not a great take because of that high team total. Maybe that's what's going to draw his ownership in. But yeah, so Chubb and Chris Carson are going to be super popular. As far as Melvin Gordon at 5K, I don't know if we can really mess around with that, but it looks like we're getting a decent projection for him and Josh Jacobs. Both of these guys at pretty low ownership in comparison to Aaron Jones. I already talked about the Denver running backs in the value video, so not really on that. I think Chris Carson's the pivot, guys. So Josh Jacobs he's probably, I think he could even be a little bit higher than this. So I'm not sure that he's a great pivot, but as someone that's going to see the ball, there's not that high ceiling from that perspective. So there's no way Carson's going to be 20%. Yeah, I don't believe that at all. Cook is very expensive, but it is a great matchup for him for sure. I would be shocked if he's not chalk. So I think that the highest owned probably is going to be Aaron Jones for sure in this range and Nick Chubb. There's definitely some big time discrepancies in ownership at the couple sources that I checked, so that's interesting. But Samuel is going to be the chalk. So in particular, so if you end up on some of these early game chalk players, so let's talk a little bit quickly about what you would be pivoting away from here. So let's just move you guys back over full screen. So it looks like the chalkiest play in the slate. I'd be shocked if it wasn't Curtis Samuel. If we get Connor out, Christian McCaffrey, Dalvin Cook, looks like they're going to be pretty heavily owned. I talked about the Tampa Bay wide receivers. So if you end up on a team that has the Tampa Bay wide receivers or someone like Lockett, you might have to make some moves. I typically like to make the most moves from a leverage perspective at the wide receiver position. We could talk about a couple tight ends as well. Don't need to bring you guys over to screen share again for that. So if we were just looking, so the chalkiest tight end, it is looking like it's going to be someone like Zach Ertz. Looks like Jonnu Smith is drawing a decent amount of ownership projection as well. Both of those guys are in the morning as well. So if we just want to look at some of the afternoon tight ends, gosh, is Noah Fant going to be popular? I guess Darren Waller. So if you ended up on a team with like Darren Waller, Hunter Henry, something like that, I guess Cameron Brate even, depending on how the rest of the week kind of goes for Cameron Brate. I don't think he'll be super chalky, but Darren Waller, I mean, I would assume that he's going to be heavily owned, especially at that price. Similar. Wow, I didn't realize they priced up Hunter Henry all the way too. The prices are kind of nuts this week. So my leverage spot in the afternoon at the tight end position, again, if Noah Fant ends up being at this type of ownership, I think he's a great pivot. TJ Hawkinson, which one is it? I think it's Hawkinson. I think I get made fun of on the Footballers podcast for calling him Hawkinson. TJ Hawkinson. So I think he's still a guy that could offer a decent amount of ceiling for you guys. Great matchup against Oakland as well, 29th against tight ends. If he ends up kind of sticking with this ownership projection, I think he would be interesting. If you did want to go the Jimmy Graham route, I don't know if there's a ton of upside there anymore, but I think he's the guy that you could get sub 5%. That would have kind of at least a comparable ceiling to Noah Fant, TJ Hawkinson. So I think that's interesting. I don't know if there's there's obviously not a price pivot. Darren Waller, Hunter Henry, I think they'll be, Henry will definitely be lower on, but not to the point where he's going to leverage you a ton. Dalvin Cook, Christian McCaffrey, we talked about them quite a bit. So these are some guys that you'd be looking to pivot away from if these type of situations went wrong. So say you played someone like Derrick Henry, he's ends up like 15-20%, something like that, and you got to pivot and make some moves. For me, I think that would be a situation where I would try and get really different at wide receiver. So what could go wrong for early game if you end up kind of getting on this Miami and New York Jets game? If that goes terribly wrong, you got to make moves. So that's kind of where I think that looks like we're going to have a lot of ownership in the afternoon too. So Zach Ertz looks like he's going to be by far the chalkiest tight end in the morning. Could be gaining some steam with Jonnu Smith, which would be somewhat interesting. Kelsey's going to, name value, he's going to be at least 10%. So if you can leverage with a stack, it'd be great. So that's kind of the thing. Let's go back to the screen share for a second and talk about quarterback. I guess I should probably touch on them too. let's throw only these teams in the afternoon. Oh, let's talk about the morning as well. So morning quarterbacks. I think that the ownership, like, I don't know if there's really going to be a chalk quarterback in the morning. I don't see one. If there's going to be one, Josh Allen would probably be the guy that would be the chalkiest. So let's look at only teams in the afternoon. If you end up having the slot open, which I think a lot of people will, we're just looking at, like, the ownership's always going to be a little bit more spread out. But I mean, if there's a position where you still have the ability to kind of change to a different stack, we talked a little bit about Mike Williams, but a pivot at wide receiver, Keenan Allen. If you wanted to go the Phillip Rivers route, I think that'll probably be the lowest owned spot that you could go to. That still has at least a decent amount of ceiling. So Phillip Rivers, someone I almost never play because he never gives me a ton on the ground, but he does have that 3-4 touchdown upside that we've seen for a team that is throwing a ton. So I think he's probably the top leverage guy. I think Matthew Stafford's gonna be popular. I don't know if maybe pivoting to someone like Brandon Allen or pivoting to someone like Baker really is going to give you enough ceiling. So I like to think of it as more of like a stack type of situation. So like another way, if you did want to go with someone like Matt Stafford, still going to be 10% owned or so, but you're going to play Stafford and Marvin Jones instead of Stafford and Galladay. I think that's another way to do it. Or if you have a tight end slot available, going with something like Stafford and Hawkinson. The ownership, like for the individual player at that point, doesn't really matter. It matters is your combination. So I'd be in on that for sure. I think that if you are going to play Russ, I don't know if he's the best guy to kind of get access to if you're way behind. That's for sure. Aaron Jones for Rodgers. Yeah, so kind of flipping the script. So yeah, that's a really sharp take. So if you're looking just at the chalk at some of the other positions, Aaron Jones, Josh Jacobs, Mike Evans, Chris Godwin. So flipping the script with someone like Aaron Rodgers and picking one of his pass catchers, that's going to leverage you from all of the Aaron Jones chalk that is going to be coming. So I think that's super sharp, man. Good call. Yeah, so if any of you guys are kind of listening to this on YouTube later, make sure you come hang out with us on Sunday mornings, 11:30 Eastern Time, twitch.tv/Joe Holka. Those are the questions I'm answering right now as we do this video live. Make sure you get over to LinkedIn as well. Going to be giving away a couple Millionaire Maker tickets for the people that kind of hit that LinkedIn contest. All the info for that is is my Twitch bio. You can find it on Twitter as well. A couple very simple things over on LinkedIn to get you access to that contest. It is going to be a free roll again. But yeah, guys, if this is your first time here, make sure you are checking out the other platforms. Do a ton of content over on Instagram and Twitter as well. So just take a few seconds, follow me over there. Would really appreciate it. If you haven't already, toss a like on this video. Let me know in the comments if I missed anyone from a leverage perspective. These are the kind of things that I'm doing each and every slate as we approach the afternoon lock. So I think that's just crucial if you really want to be a successful GPP player. Those are things that you really have to kind of take advantage of if you want to be a long-time winner in these tournaments. If you want to learn more about how to be a profitable DFS player and better, start now by hitting the subscribe icon in the bottom right-hand corner so you don't miss anything. Be on the lookout for all of my content, but in particular, come hang out with us on Sunday morning on Twitch, twitch.tv/Joe Holka, 11:30 Eastern Time. We go live. All right, good talk. I'll see you out there.